Chapter 14 of Hood and Wolf. "I said come in," repeated Lulu with sinister playfulness. He emerged from the house into daylight and walked down the front steps. Like his men, he wore dark red, leather armor. He sported both a sword and a gleaming pistol in his belt. "Things never go according to plan, now do they?" said Lulu, disappointed. "Here I was waiting for you to come in, and you so rudely decided to stay outside. Mind you, it is such a nice afternoon." He looked at the leaves and trees for a moment. "The forest seems almost in conflict between yellow and red, don't you think? You, obviously, presenting yellow, which is fine with me, because I do so love red," he said, grinning menacingly. Getting no reaction out of the yellow hood-covered figure, he continued, "Last time, when my men were working so hard to capture you, you yellow hoods pulled a deceitful switch on me. That was rude, clever, and well executed, but rude. The sort of cleverness could lead to something with the right guidance and tutelage. You could become a force to be reckoned with. I've seen it before. The old me would have maybe made you an offer, but now I'm not interested in letting you go any further." T took a couple steps back. She wasn't sure what to do or what to expect. Her heart was racing and she was sweating. Lulu kept trying to peek under the hood, but to no avail. Now the question on the top of my mind is, with whom am I dealing? Do I actually have the granddaughter of the great Monsieur Klaus in front of me? Or do I have one or two of her friends? Are you wondering how I know there are three of you? Those jail guards are talkative, dangerously so, for you." All of a sudden, Lulu leapt forward and tried to grab the hood, but T matched him with a quick leap backward. Her hood remained in place, continuing to obscure her scared face. "Well done," he said with genuine appreciation. "You have good reflexes. But I'm running out of time. Time. He sighed and drew his pistol, pointing it at T. "This," he said, showing off his pistol, "is a mature cousin of the one still popular in these parts. It has better balance, better accuracy, and far less recoil. Next time I'm home, my multi-shot pistol should be ready. Oh, if only I had it now. I'd love to show it to you. It is a marvel of modern technology, like the new rifles, but small and elegant." Lulu flexed his fingers for a moment to make sure he had a good grip. T went from nervous to panicky. Lulu noticed her shock sticks shaking. "Not so brave now, are you? I'll have you know this pistol is loaded and ready. A shot from this distance will go clean through you and leave a hole the size of... Well, best I not panic you too much." Lulu savored the moment. That afternoon he'd spent a half an hour in the glowing library downstairs and an additional hour going through the rest of the house, book by book, note by note. He'd found nothing of value. The only drawings he found that he could make sense of were a ridiculous four-wheeled small cart-like contraption that had a mast and a sail. It boiled Lulu's blood to think that Klaus had outsmarted him by hiding out in the open, but it enraged him even more to think that he'd wasted his time pursuing someone whom he wanted to believe was really just a clever fraud. He would be humiliated if he returned with nothing. Lulu took a step forward. "I'll make this simple, child. Show me where Monsieur Klaus has built the steam engine, or find me that missing crown molding from the kitchen. I know it has something to do with all of this. It has to. Why else would it be gone? I won't ask again!" His jaw visibly clenched. Just as T thought she might pass out from fear, a wave of confidence and calmness washed over her, and a response bubbled up from the back of her mind. Making her voice lower than usual, she replied, "Moldy crowns? Well, I can offer you an old princess dress, but I don't think it's your size." Lulu was completely taken aback. "Are you mocking me?" With his free hand he unsheathed his sword. "Mocking me? The great Lulu? Do you have any idea who you are dealing with? I thought you were the okay Lulu, or was it the adequate Lulu? It doesn't matter. Now that you've tangled with the yellow hoods, your name is Mud," said T with a biting confidence. She felt like the words were saying themselves, and she was just listening to them. But Lulu started twitching. The machine that was his mind had lost another bolt. He tried to compose himself, but his arms started to shake. He tightened his grip on his sword and tried to steady his pistol arm. "Enough! Give me what I want, or I will shoot you. Then I'll shoot the captain's daughter," he said, gesturing to the house. "Then Koshin. Then I'll shoot—" He paused, trying to muster up the calmness to lie confidently. "Your grandfather." At first, when Lulu mentioned hostages, T felt her courage start to dissolve, but then she realized something didn't sound right. She remembered the rock under the steps and the open shed. "Well, since you don't have any grandfather, are you planning on shooting one another imaginary figures? Fairy, perhaps?" T paused to measure the effect of what she'd say. She knew She knew that he might very well have some hostages, but resisted the urge to trade her surrender for their freedom. She didn't believe he'd really let them go. She didn't even know if her grandfather had what Lulu was looking for in the first place. So she pressed on. "You're a fraud, Lulu. Your reputation, your sense of superiority, it's all a sham," she said, crouched down like a spring being coiled. Lulu was having trouble thinking straight. He was incensed and struggling with his emotions. How dare an impudent child mock him? How could his great career come down to a standoff with a child? His desire to win by superior intellect was losing ground to his need to prevail by any means necessary. In his rage, he could no longer remember why he'd avoided bloodshed on his earlier missions. It must have been weakness, he thought to himself. One of Lulu's horsemen galloped by, yelling, "We have company!" Lulu, his mind on fire and face red with rage, glared at the yellow hood. From behind the house, a gunshot rang out. Lulu instinctively turned to look. T seized the moment. Pressing the hidden button on one of her shock sticks, she sprang forward. With one stick, she knocked the sword out of Lulu's hand. The other she jabbed into his chest. A few sparks flew, but she seemed unaffected. She immediately regretted not having practiced more with them. He laughed and sprang back. "I knew this armor would work." He fired his pistol. "T!" screamed the other two yellow hoods as they careened around the corner in their sail carts. Lulu smiled from ear to ear, feeling in control again. "So I do have the granddaughter." Looking down at the crumpled yellow heap, he said, "If you aren't dead yet, give me what I want or you will be." He picked up his sword. Allie brought her sail cart to a quick stop and sprang out, while Richie picked up more speed in his. Lulu looked up, confused, as Richie's sail cart rapidly approached. "Ah!" screamed Richie. He yanked down the sail and telescoping mast swerved. It pulled harder on the brake. Still moving very fast, his sail cart flipped into the air. "Richie!" screamed Ellie, frozen in place. The sail cart soared higher than ever before and crashed into Lulu's chest, sending him flying backward. Richie landed his cart expertly on all four wheels and brought it to a sudden stop. He hopped out, wanting to help T, but stumbled to the ground, dizzy and trying to catch his breath. Ellie, meanwhile, helped T to her feet. "I'm okay," said T. The cloak absorbed the bullet. It scared him, but mostly it just knocked me off balance. "That's amazing," said Ellie, looking at the cloak. "You're not hurt?" said Richie and T to each other. "Look out!" screamed Ellie as Lulu rose and staggered over to retrieve his fallen pistol. T sprang forward and unleashed a battle cry from deep within. "Ah!" With both hands around her remaining charged shock stick, she ran at Lulu and forcibly struck him right into the chest. More sparks flew, and this time Lulu failed and dropped to the ground. Ellie let out a big sigh and collapsed gently to the ground. "I don't know how much more of this I can take," she said, laughing nervously. T picked up Lulu's pistol and tossed it toward the shed, followed by his sword. Richie chuckled and looked at T. "By the way, we came to tell you Lulu escaped from jail." "Really? Thanks for the heads up," replied T sarcastically, but with a smile. She picked up her other shock stick, which had fallen when she'd been shot. Which had fallen when she'd been shot. "Why didn't the one work properly?" Ellie took it, cranked it fiercely until she couldn't anymore, armed it with a quick press from the hidden button, and then struck the ground with it. It released a shower of sparks and left a big black scorch mark. "Maybe you didn't wind it up enough?" "T!" yelled a voice from behind the house. "Here!" T replied, her nerves calming at the sound of her grandfather's voice. The sound of a shot from the doorway shattered the moment. The yellow hoods turned to see a horseman pointing his rifle at them. "Don't move," he commanded. "I've got a second shot in this, so don't move a muscle. Now!" Just then the horseman who had raced by earlier came galloping back. Upon seeing the three yellow hoods, he charged his horse directly at them. "Run!" screamed T. "No, sail!" corrected Richie. He grabbed his sail cart, giving it a running push before leaping in. Unmoving, Ellie locked steely eyes with the rapid approaching horseman, pulled one of her fully charged shot sticks from her coat, armed it, and threw it at him. His eyes widened as he recognized the object just before it made contact. A moment later he was on the ground, flailing about for a second time, thanks to Ellie. Ellie and T grabbed the sail cart and followed Richie toward the main road. In all the confusion, the horseman at the doorway fumbled his rifle and accidentally fired into the trees. Out of shots, he started running toward the fallen colleague. "Forget him! Help me!" barked Lulu. Quickly, the horseman got Lulu to his feet and hastily led him away. "T!" yelled Nikolas as he arrived on the scene, only to see a downed horseman and the three yellow hoods in their sail carts heading down the road. He bent over to catch his breath, sweat beading down his face. Captain Auchenbroek arrived a minute later. He put his hand on Nikolas's shoulder to reassure him and was about to say everything was going to be fine when Lulu and his last remaining horseman came galloping through in pursuit of the yellow hoods.